Of the challenge. Nice to see y'all. If you want to turn your camera on, I won't be mad about it. Hi, Leah. Nice to see you. It's great to hey, Bianca. It's nice to be able to connect, albeit remotely. Hey, Natia, how are you? Great to see you. Feel free to leave your camera on. If you've got questions today, as always, please feel free to pop them in the chat and I will get to as many of those as possible. Let me know, what's your biggest aha moment been so far from this week? Is there a word that kind of sums up, something that's changed about yourself or an impact that the challenge and the coaching has had on you this week? I would love to know from you in the chat. One word that kind of describes how you're feeling. We're almost at the end, not quite. Tomorrow is day 5, and then we have 2 bonus sessions for you next week, so keep an eye out for those as well so that we can have an official graduation for everyone who's gone through the Know Your Worth Challenge too. No problem. I will do a summary on yesterday. That is absolutely fine. For those of you who are just joining, I was just saying welcome to day 4 of Oh my gosh, was I on mute that whole time? Like the whole time? Lol. Sorry, I don't even know how that happened. Hilarious. Tech. We love her. We love Tech so much. I'm going to get my team to make sure that everyone is muted when they come in. Okay, so welcome to day 4. Today is all about getting that cash. Ola, quick summary on yesterday. Yesterday is all about asking for a discount, right? Getting to a place where you're comfortable being uncomfortable, right? I don't think I shared this with you yesterday, but actually coincidentally, totally coincidentally, yesterday, I helped a good friend. She's in a bit of credit card debt. We've all been there, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us. And she's $3,700 in credit card debt across 2 different credit cards. She was freaking out and I don't know why those balloons. Thank you, Zoom. That's fun. Okay. Anyway, so she was like freaking out, very stressful. She doesn't earn a heap of cash. And so, and then it had been sent to a debt collector. And I was like, oh, perfect. You can negotiate. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, you can negotiate. So anyway, we called up the debt collection company and we were like, hey, we're calling in good faith. We want to get this settled. And they're like, no worries. You can just like pay the balance now. And she put herself on mute and I was like, just say like, what's the best you can do for me? And so she said to them, oh, that's interesting. Could you talk me through like, what's the best number you could do for me if I pay in full today? And they basically said to her, I think it was like $1,638.38 was what she had to pay to settle the account, close out both credit cards. You know, it's not great for her credit rating, but her credit rating is bad to start with. It's a whole different journey, which we could talk about on another day. So basically, she saved $2,000 purely by asking the question. Now, hopefully you don't get to the point where it's at a debt collector where you have to do that. But if you are, again, there's no shame in that. Ask the question because you just never know, right? So it's literally one question. And so yesterday was about asking the question as well. And then I talked you through the 3-step process that we walk you through in the Career Level Up program, which is all about the personal piece, understanding your true north, the external piece, understanding what's going on, the office politics, the economics, the strategic stuff at work. And then it was about the human factor and really understanding that anytime that you're negotiating or strategizing your career, you got to take into account personality, ego, scenarios of whoever the individual is that you're negotiating with. Because in theory, we're all like very calm and rational, and in reality, we're all human, right? For better or worse. So let's talk about today. If you have a summary in one word or maybe one sentence that kind of explains your key takeaway from the challenge this week so far, I would love to hear from you in the chat. And let's talk about day 4 where we're going to make it rain, right? So today is really about thinking, if I got a raise, if I earned more cash, by the way, through my full-time job, through a side hustle, through consulting, whatever it is, if I did that, what does that mean? Now, if you earn an extra $1,000, we all know what that means for this year. Super exciting. $5,000, that's great for this year. But actually, what does that mean in the long run, right? Because it's not just about what you're earning now, it's also about your 401k, your superannuation, whatever your retirement situation is, that is calculated on your base pay as well, right? If we're talking about salaried employees. So that extra increase now, yes, it's good for your paycheck. It's kind of cool, but it also has an impact in your retirement, right? So what we built was a calculator that really, and I'm going to bring up the link to that now for folks who haven't done it, because we can do it in the chat. We can do it on the session together. Okay, so if you haven't already done it, today's about making it rain. Hopefully that link works. It looks a bit funky. I'm just going to quickly fix that and share you this link because I think this will be easier. Oh no, it's doing it again. Okay, it's just peptalkher.com/calculator. So basically, if you, oh, it works. Sweet. Great. Thank you. Thanks, Kristen. Thanks, Bianca. So basically, if you plug the numbers into that little calculator situation, it's kind of fun. So let me go ahead and screen share and we can have a play with this. And this is just to kind of get you into a headspace to think about like possibilities. Because sometimes, one of the things that I hear the most, I reckon, in the Pep Talker community, I hear this all the time. And that is, well, it'd be nice to get paid more, but I'm already getting paid pretty well. I'm paying my mortgage. I go out to dinner once a week. I don't need any more money. Now you may not like need any more money, but this is to talk to you about what could happen and what it could look like if you do have more money. So I'm 39. So I'm just going to choose an arbitrary amount here because for easy maths for the calculator. So I'm just going to say I earn $100,000. Let's say I get a 5% pay increase, right? Let's just keep it simple. 5%, that's at the lower end of what I would want for any of you. So, okay. So then the calculator automatically crunches the numbers. So it's like, if I get a 5% raise, it's an extra $400 a month. It's kind of nice. $5,000 a year because we put in 100,000. That's nice. But here's the interesting figure. If I get $5,000 an extra a year now, keeping in mind I'm a bit older, I'm 39. Shout out to everyone who's my age or older. But so I'm a bit closer to retirement, but that means an extra 130K in my retirement savings just because of that pay increase, right? Assuming that my retirement funds are being calculated on that base of $100,000 that goes up by 5%. So you can then have some fun and be like, what if I got 13% extra? What would that do? All right. All of a sudden, it's an extra $1,000 a month, 338K extra in retirement. That's a lot of business class flights, when you're in retirement. What if I got 27%? So you can see that it's this is compound interest. This is maths 101 for those of you who are mathematic legends. I am not. That's why we had someone very smart build this on the back end with the calculator. So it's to kind of get you excited about like, it's not just about you right now, but it's about future you and what that could mean. It's kind of bananas, right? When you look at it, it sort of just like goes up really quickly. So have a play, like just have a play with that. It's really fun, and the reason that we built this and the reason why day 4 is all about you starting to think about and open your articulator activating system in your brain to the idea that firstly, that is a number that's kind of interesting. And secondly, what could that look like? Not just now, but at retirement. It just gets the creative juices flowing and it gets your brain and your mindset thinking towards, oh, that's interesting. Maybe that's a thing versus I didn't even want to have that conversation. Like, who even cares? So we just want to kind of like inch towards it bit by bit by bit, right? Just to kind of open the fact that it's a possibility. And that's kind of an exciting possibility. So let me know what came up for you, whether you want to put the number in or just like whether you were surprised by the impact that small or big incremental raise can have on your salary. And that's just what I want you to think about today. You don't have to do anything else other than have a play with the calculator, share it with a friend if you want. It's a free resource that we offer, and it's just to get excited about it and to see how the value of compounding interest can make a huge difference. We talked yesterday as well about this idea that if you get a $5,000 raise now, over the next 40 years, due to compounding interest, that actually adds up to more than close to $1.5 million. Right? So if I'm like, what am I, 39, 40 years, what's that, 79, almost 80. That's what it would look like. That 5%, that $5,000 incremental salary now would lead to that amount in terms of compounding at retirement. So again, it kind of just gets you thinking about what is possible, and just makes it really practical, which is exciting. Good question, Kristen, about the assumptions. I need to go back and check. I think we made the assumption. I have to check with that. I need to go back and check. I think it was based on the standard 401k contributions in the United States. So I think the assumption is somewhere between 3 to 7% of an employee match contribution. I'll have to check for you, Kristen. But yeah, it's not crazily high, but it was based on either Australia's or America's baseline contribution amount, the minimum contribution amount. Yes, love the small wins along the way, Lisa. That's awesome. Track the successes and have the confidence to ask for what you are deserving of. Yeah. And sometimes you just need a reminder of that, right? And as we talked about way back at the start, as and when you feel like you need another reminder, don't forget that you have friends, families, mentors, sponsors who are in your life, who I'm sure are more than happy to reiterate and remind you how awesome you are and indeed what you're deserving of when you maybe forget that yourself too. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat and I'm going to get to those for you as well. Perenna's feeling like there's a lot of tangible things to do, which is awesome. We've got some folks who have done the challenge before. I think Sophie's done it twice. Actually, maybe you have too, Leah. So I wanted to introduce you to them both so that you can ask them any questions and so you can kind of get a sense of how the long-term impact of the challenge on their career, and both of them have been through the Career Level Up program as well. And in fact, both Sophie and Leah are also in our mastermind, which meets twice a month. So I think you've met Leah, but I wanted to introduce you all to Sophie as well. And this is a coincidence actually, but both Leah and Sophie managed to move countries, different countries, I will say. Sophie's Australian and Leah's American, but they moved to different countries after the course. And Sophie, that was one of your pretty much original goals. Yes, salary, but it was really about moving to London was your big shtick, right? That was the reason that you enrolled in the first place. Like what, and it took some time to get the move overseas. But what would you say is like, what was the biggest outcome for you of the Career Level Up program? Like what was the biggest shift that you saw?
Hi, everyone. I'm thinking about, what that sort of dream was in moving to London from Sydney. And it's kind of, it can be an idea, it can be something that you want to do. And then with the courses that I've done with Maggie for years now, we've been on this sort of journey. It's about, okay, but what does that actually look like? What are you going to need to do that? And I have heard of a lot of people moving over to London as lawyers, and it's been actually very straightforward for them. And I'm very happy for them. It hasn't been that way for me at all. There have been a lot of hurdles, and it's like there's always a plan. There is a way, and being able to have this group in sort of various iterations with Career Level Up, with Challenge, with Mastermind, and Maggie to sort of like, what were those steps? What is the grand plan? Have you taken those steps to get towards the grand plan? So I think it would be about, if there is, a goal, a dream, then there needs to be a strategy if you are going to approach it in a way that's actionable.
So it was kind of like you sort of had like the vague, not vague, you were kind of specific on what you wanted to move to London.
It was specific.
Yeah, it was specific, but it was more like breaking that down into like, okay, what do I do this month? It was making it more tangible for you and bite-sized. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, definitely. And especially with all the problems that came up. Like a lot of people have made this move, and I would say have done so in a fairly straightforward fashion. If they just start looking for jobs and applications, they get a job, they move over. And the type of law that I'm in, it's not that straightforward. So when any of those hurdles came up, it was like, okay, well, actually break down this problem rather than it's all too hard, or just keep on trying at the same thing, because that wouldn't have worked.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting you say that, because I think whether you're trying to move overseas, whether you're trying to pivot industries, we have a lot of folks who use their, like, for example, we had a student, I think in your course, Leah, in your cohort, she worked in retail and she really wanted to work in startups. And she was like, well, it's not possible because I work in retail. And we're like, no, like it is possible, but you just have to know how to sell it in the way that it's transferable. So whether you're trying to take your existing skills and your existing career and pivot that into a different industry, whether you're trying to pivot experience from one country to another, whether you're trying to pivot a conversation from a perception that maybe an employer has of how you negotiate and what your value is, and pivoting that perception to be something different so that it can be commensurate with your value, is a lot of what we talk about. And, a lot of it is strategic and very, things like the calculator, super practical, but also a lot of it is mindset, not in a woo-woo way necessarily, but it's in that kind of like, it's that brain training, isn't it? Which, Leah, I know you've used a lot since you had a hard couple of years before you came into the program, and then you've managed to move countries too. It hasn't been easy, but I would say for you, I feel like you're sort of like abundant, like positive mindset, like always seeing an opportunity, has helped you. Would you say that? I've observed that in you. I'm not sure if that's how you describe it though.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, I also think just consistency has been really helpful. And I attribute a lot of that to Pep Talk Her and Sophie. Thank you, because Sophie's always been a great resource, kind of as we swapped oceans, I guess is the right way to say it. But going through the challenge and going through the career level up in the mastermind and having those consistent touch points that if you are feeling like you're in a different challenging situation, because naturally that continues to happen, the next hurdle that you get to, or the next opportunity where you're saying, okay, pause, I'm negotiating again, I'm looking for a new role, I need to go back to my why, all of these different pieces that you're able to learn, and having accountability partners. I love that I can double dip into those and continue to use them from, I think, Maggie, the first time you and I met was even before the pandemic, but when I was in the cohort, it was in maybe 2021. So it's been consistently incredibly valuable for me.
Yeah, and it's interesting, they always say, one of my mentors actually, she talks about consistency is key. Consistency is key. It's kind of boring. But it's also true. And I think one of the things that happens for a lot of us, you go through high school, you make a decision about, allegedly where you want your life to go with what you're going to study, if that's what you choose to do. And then you sort of get a graduate job or whatever, and you just often don't think about your career again, which is sort of like it doesn't make a lot of sense if you think about it, considering we work for 40, 50, 60 years, right, these days.
Yeah.
So having a space and a community where you openly can talk about and kind of share about dreams and ideas with your career. Again, it's not why I built the program, honestly. I really built this for the nuts and bolts of like, this is how you negotiate strategically, this is how you earn more money, this is how you get promotions. That's what I intended. But actually what's transpired over the last 5 years of running these programs, yes, that still happens and that's still a focus and will help you grow your network. So you've always got plan B options coming to you, but also it's like you then don't feel as lonely, is the feedback that I get from folks like Leah and Sophie, because there is the Slack community. There is those every other week touch points in the course itself. In the mastermind, it's twice a month. So it's then like, if you hit a roadblock, yes, I'm there to coach you through it, but also so is the cohort and your colleagues as well, who may have gone through similar things too. One of the things that's coming through in the chat, which I think is interesting, and Sophie, you might be able to speak to this more broadly. When you're not in a revenue generating role, so if you're in sales, it's a little easier, right, to negotiate, because it's very clear. You either make the company money or you don't. When you're in a role that's a little more, I don't want to say airy-fairy, but it's less clear on what that value is, what's one of the things that the course has taught you in terms of like how you can illustrate and prove value to an employer?
Sure. The first thing that came to me was, when you're in a role, you just being in that role, knowing how to do the role, working with stakeholders within your company, outside your company, and operating is really valuable. It's you actually doing that piece, even if you're not compared against a metric with your peers. You being there doing the role is really valuable for them if they need that work done, because for them to bring someone else in, market that, train that, have someone else in the role, it would be a loss for them overall. So just keeping you in the role is automatically a gain. And in terms of proving worth, if you're in even a slightly like mid-level role, if you are bringing other people in and training them on how to do your role, or training them on how to do their role if they do something slightly different to you, that's hugely valuable, because it's something that there's a huge cost uptick for them. A huge benefit uptick for them if you are bringing other people in and helping them do their job, because without you in that piece, someone else would have to do that, or no one else would do that, or you have that sort of unique space within your team. I don't think it needs to be sort of tracked to a specific client that you bring in, or one specific relationship you have. But if you're the relationship manager for 10 different stakeholders, then who's going to do that piece if you're gone? Again, they have to bring someone else in, train them up, build up all those relationships. Again, there's a risk that someone would leave.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just understanding that, and again, like most of you, I'm guessing although we have had some folks who work for not-for-profits go through the program, but most of us don't work for charities. And what that means is, if you're bad at your job, they will fire you. Most of us work for companies where profit is a motivator. And so we hire people. I'm a business owner too, right? Like I hire people to help make my life easier, to help us grow the business, to help make our clients' lives and experiences of PepTalkHer better. And so if folks are not returning value to myself and our team and our clients, then like we can't afford to just kind of have them hang around because we're not big enough. And most companies won't do that either, right? And so what that tells me is if you all are employed right now, you're probably really, really good at your job. And the fact that you're interested in growing yourself and learning more tells me that you're probably pretty bloody excellent at your job, right? And so that means you have leverage, which we talked a little bit about yesterday. And we talk about that very much in the first module of the career level up. And that is like understanding your value, because what Leah brings is different to what I bring, which is very different to what Sophie brings. And to be honest, we can't really compete with each other on that stuff because it is our zone of genius. And so one of the things that we do in the course is like unlock that zone of genius, which Leah, I feel like I remember we had a conversation about this. Like for you, you're in operations and marketing, like figuring out your zone of genius was kind of a turning point for you, right, in the course?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a real unlock, and it's something that genuinely I reference in networking calls, I reference in interviews, I reference when I'm just meeting new people. I had a meeting at KPMG yesterday, and it was something that I mentioned in that meeting, and it's something that having that self-awareness and that really confidence in that, I think continues to give me positive feedback there.
I love it. And so I remember you were on the fence about joining the course, candidly, at the very start, because, you know, it is a 4-figure investment. What tipped you over the edge? And if folks are here and they're like, no, I don't know, like, can I afford it? Is it worth it? Like, what would your advice be to them? And by the way, I didn't tell Leah any of the questions. I'm just throwing questions at you. So I'm really throwing you both in the hot seat.
Yeah, I actually coming on here, I sort of got a flashback of a conversation in the car with my ex-boyfriend about this course. And I was saying it's a lot of money, and it's it was back in COVID, and you know, there was just so much uncertainty. It was a bit of a rough patch at work. I'd gotten some pretty hard feedback, and it was, you know, is this really what I should be focusing on? Because I should probably be focusing on fixing this problem at work. And the bit that tipped me, I think, was the long-term piece. So even though there was this problem right now with work that I needed to address and fix, and I did, which is so much easier because of having actually the long-term plan, which is why I joined the course, because I knew there was this longer piece. I wanted to go to London, and I could see some, you know, fairly straightforward ways of doing that. And yet I was also, you know, stabbing in the dark. And I'm quite particular with how I do things, quite well thought out. And I thought, well, you know, a course helping you sort of strategically set that up, as well as, you know, I wanted a higher salary. I wanted to be paid what I thought would be, I think, what this job was worth. And, you know, it is a tough gig being a lawyer, and the demands, the responsibility as well. And I wanted to be remunerated for that. And I felt like I could do with some coaching to get there.
And I don't know.
So there was a few pieces there.
I don't know if you feel comfortable, Sophie, maybe even in the chat, even if it's not a dollar sign, if you want to think about, and you might need a couple of minutes because I know it's been a year or two, but if you want to think about what percentage your salary went up from the course. And Leah, I might ask you the same question, like for folks who are like unsure about joining in terms of the investment, because typically that's the biggest objection people have is like, well, you know, can I afford it and is it worth it? And one of the things that I think is interesting that you said, Sophie, is that like, you know, this is why I always have multiple coaches, by the way. I don't know if I've shared this with you all, but like I invested a coach that I worked with a couple of years ago. I think the first time I worked with her, it was 30 grand. And then in the end, after about 18 months, I probably paid her close to $80,000, which is like that's like a salary. That's an obscene amount of money. Like it's obscene. And it was 100% worth it because what she taught me and the stuff that we worked on, I frankly needed the accountability to get it done. I needed her to kick my ass to do it. I wasn't going to do it without her. I'm embarrassed to admit that, but here we are. And then the second thing is like I invested, say, $80,000 over 18 months with her. In the last 5 years, I reckon I've made close on 7 figures from what she taught me. For sure, multiple hundreds of thousands, but maybe close to $1 million if you add it all up. So then it's like, okay, I spent 80 grand, but like it's probably at least a 10x, close to 800,000, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. So for me, even though that was obscene and it still makes me go, oh my gosh, it was definitely worth it. And so that's what you've got to think about too, is like, yes, this course costs around $2,000, give or take. And do you think you will get a pay increase, or will you find more alignment that's worth that to you? If so, then it's worth it. And if not, that's fine. I hope you still had some value out of it. Hopefully you'll get at least 2 to 5x that amount. But Leah, for you, I don't know if you've ever quantified it, Leah, but like, what was the thing that kind of tipped you over the edge?
To be fair, I had thought about it 1 year and decided not to. And I probably should have gone with my gut the first time around, because by the time I did join the course, I was so burnt out and also quite despondent. I felt like there just wasn't a chance I was going to be able to get a raise. And it just, it was a startup and this and that. And there were all of these kind of self-fulfilling prophecy excuses that I really leaned on. And I don't know the exact percentage, Maggie, but I am comfortable in saying that within a 6-month period, I had 2 different promotions totaling about $35,000 in raises.
That's
So
legit. Wow.
yes,
I actually don't remember it being that. I know that you've had a lot, but I didn't realize it was so quickly. That's awesome.
yeah. And I paid for it I paid for it myself. And then I was able to use that in my negotiations to, again, showcase what I was doing as far as my personal development and what I was going to be able to continuously contribute to the company. And they ended up paying for it as well. So my continuous value, was many times over one.
So I just did the quick maths. I used a calculator. I cheated. So that's a 17.5%. Sorry, 17.5x return from $2,000 to 35K. That's awesome. Super cool. I don't know, Sophie, if you remember what yours was, but it's just interesting to know. Like, and I'm very, like, I was trained as a journalist, right? So I'm all about facts and figures. And so that's why I'm always like, I don't know if people think that this is just like some like kind of like woo-woo. That's why I always like to bring in former students so you all can meet them from the horse's mouth, and kind of see for yourself how it's different for everyone, right? But it's nice to hear this directly. So that's awesome. Do you remember what yours was, Soph?
Yes. And as of recently, maybe it's, I don't even know how it sits, but it's tripled.
Wait, your salary's tripled from when you did the course? Has it?
Yes.
Really? Oh,
yes.
I didn't know that. I would have led with that if I'd known that. Nice.
Yeah, this is recent. Yes.
So would you, because if someone said to you, like, if someone says to you, oh, probably it will help you triple your salary, you'd probably just go, that's bullshit, as if, don't you think? Like, you wouldn't really think it's a thing.
Yeah, look, I didn't know what the trajectory was, and I think that's partly what this taught me. Find out what the trajectory is. Ask people. Ask a lot of people. Ask white males what they earn, and figure out where you're sitting and how people move up. Because I think one thing that frustrates me when I talk to some of my girlfriends is they talk about, salary increases, and they're really happy with them. And I'm very happy for them that they're happy with them, except that I know, because I ask a lot of other people, that the salary increases are very different. And even though they're going up and they're getting increases, this could be totally different scenarios, but there is some consistency in this, that they're not getting as much, I think, as they could be, because other people in the profession, often males, are asking for more. And so their trajectory is that wonderful graph you have, Maggie, where if you don't ask for it, your curve goes up, but slowly. And it's incredible to think about that. But it's also very humbling. and it's something that I've also grown to love talking about in terms of numbers, and you have to get to a point where you're not just comfortable with it, but you kind of want to talk about it. And then it's not so few and far between. You're talking about it quite frequently.
And that's a good point. One of the other things is that we talk about money a lot in the course, as much as you're comfortable. Some people are very open, wherever you're at in your journey is fine. But part of that is brain training to be like, it's actually okay to have these conversations. And it's kind of exciting. And to be clear, both Sophie and Leah would have had pay increases anyway, even if they'd never met me, even if they'd never done the course. Would Sophie have tripled her salary? Would Leah have got 35% in 6 months? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you that. But it's kind, you know, it's my hope that there's some that we've had an impact in there, that there's a level of correlation that's led to that hockey stick, you know, hyper growth in such a short space of time. That's unreal. I love it. Well, listen, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Tomorrow is day 5 of the challenge. And as I said, we'll have a graduation session next week too, so that you can all connect as well. Really just want to say thank you to Sophie and Leah, and thank you to you all for taking the time to be here today. If you have other questions for Sophie or Leah, you can pop them in the chat. You can, you know, you can reply to any of the emails, and I'll come back to you as well if you've got any other questions. I'll put the link to join the next cohort, which starts in a week and a bit. I think it's like 8 or 9 days from now we actually kick off. So yeah, I would love to, whoever it feels like it's aligned with what you're wanting to do next and where you feel like you could go and you should go, but maybe you just feel like you'd like some accountability and support to get there, would love to support you through that. Hi, thanks Samantha, thanks for being here. Samantha's actually also in the current cohort that's graduating next week, so that's cool too. Nice to see you. Yeah, so if you've got any questions, anything's coming up for you, just hit us up in either on Instagram, LinkedIn, or on the email. Just press reply to any of the Pep Talker emails. Keep an eye out for day 5 of the challenge. You'll take a look at that. And I'm excited for you all to start thinking about that number. Make it rain in terms of your brain right now, thinking about those numbers and what it could look like. And we'll be back at the same time tomorrow. Thanks so much, y'all. See you then.